This is Family Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Susan Dormady Eisenberg for the first time. Welcome to the Family Electric Ghost podcast. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, and thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here.
We love to talk to people from around the world, specifically creative type of people, and you're an author. We're going to talk about your two novels, and we're going to talk about like the whole process of being an author, being a writer. But before we get to the heart of your story, I always ask every guest a couple questions. I'm going to ask, what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
I have been writing since I was a child, and I love to tell stories, but I think that writing helps us find out who we are. I mean that sincerely, and what we think. And I think that is what motivates me. I don't always know what I think, but when I write about it, I do. So it cuts through a lot of the nonsense in our heads, and it gets to the meat of the matter. And also I love, as I say, to tell stories. That's probably the answer.
Yeah, I think what I always find from talking to creative people is like the art of creation, the art of being a writer, whether you're a writer or playwright, actor, painter. Every artist is telling a story, even a dancer, right?
Definitely.
They all tell the story, and they find a way to build that narrative whatever art form they're in. And
And if you're a performer, you're telling a story with your performance.
yeah, and I find it's very cathartic when I've talked to a lot of creative people. Is the act of doing the process, like being a writer, being an author, is like they would do it whether they were, they do naturally gravitate toward, expressing themselves in that way, and then they find ways to like bring it to the world. But like, do you find that you always had to be a writer?
Oh my goodness, yes. From the earliest times, one of my life, but it takes years, as you said earlier when we were chatting, to give yourself permission to be a creative person and to express your thoughts, perhaps in a story or in nonfiction, which I've written too. And you are more vulnerable to the world when you're expressing yourself. But I'm at the point in my life where I have this saying, try to stop me.
Yeah.
I have to write. I mean, I have to write because I don't feel good if I don't write.
Yeah.
I feel terrible. It centers me. It is my joy. And that's where I create all my endorphins, not from physical exercise.
Yeah. I find it too, like when I'm at the piano or at one of my keyboards, like I can get lost in it.
Absolutely.
And a lot of times I'll just hit the record because I don't know if my rehearsal is actually going to create something that actually is more than a rehearsal. And I found over time, it's good to record everything because like, even if it was just a practice, sometimes that ends up being better than something I planned.
That's right. I just started a new book. I won't tell you too much about it, but I wrote 15,000 words, 40 pages before I realized this is not going to work. I just said, trash it, put it aside, start something else. That's how I feel.
Yeah, because a lot of times, like you have like this whole archive of all of these things you're working on, right?
That's right, I do.
You have diaries, you have like process, thinking out things, just maybe just flow state. They come up with something, I don't know where this works, but sometimes you put it down because maybe it works in another project, or you come back to something and say, hey, that works here. You just don't know, so
You never know. And sometimes you really can get going and then get, as I say, like 40 pages into it. That's a pretty good amount. I can judge after 40 pages what's going to work. And this was just not working. And I said, well, just set it aside. And as you said, it might be fodder for something else. And in fact, it probably will be.
Yeah, it ends up being like it's like a rung on a ladder. Like a lot of times, if you think about it, like musician, like we'll have like 90 versions of a demo.
The other thing is, when you get to a certain level and you're writing and publishing, it's good exercise to stretch the muscles on something new. It's something I didn't think about before. I just stretched the muscles and then it's there. And that was good exercise for my mind and for my writing.
Like it's like everybody like, an athlete does their warm-ups. They do their practice sessions. And it's like everything you do, it still helps toward the end. I do run my, scales, even though I'm 58, you still kind of run through them just to get your hands limber. You just do the work.
Well, remember what they said, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice.
Yeah.
And I'm always practicing.
So like you wrote a lot about like the vocal arts,
I do.
like within classical singer for Huffington
Classical
Post.
music, classical singer, opera news, and Huffington Post.
Yeah, and you remember the Authors Guild. Um, why do you like to talk about the performing arts like opera? Or what do you think? What's that mean to you?
Well, when I was young, I sang. And I studied a lot. I studied with a lot of teachers because I was in the performing arts. I mean, I was backstage in the theater. I wasn't on stage.
Mhm.
And as I moved around, I had different vocal teachers. And then when I began, so I understood what the mechanics of singing were. I wasn't very good at singing myself. But then when I interviewed all of those singers, I thought, there's something here. This would make a great book to really see how these singers got their technique and how they really mastered singing. Because I think it was Renee Fleming who said it takes 10 minutes to explain and 10 years to master.
Yeah,
Which
that
could be true of anything, playing the piano.
yeah. It's like the whole thing about the arts, especially like performing arts, and like something like opera or like anytime you're classical type music where you really to enjoy it, you actually have to see that orchestra or see that play acted out.
There was something else I discovered as I went to opera and also theater, is that if you fell in love with a particular voice, and it was some of the great voices, you might hear it on recording, but when you hear it in the house, it's a different experience. It's
Hmm.
almost as though the entire depth of the voice is hidden until you hear it live. Maybe some people won't agree with me because we have such amazing recordings now, but that's how I always experienced it.
Yeah, I think what happens is a lot of times in whatever the medium is that the music is on,
Hmm.
um, like back in the day, if someone was on like a vinyl, or if it's on
Right, right.
tape, right? There's certain bandwidth on analog equipment that comes out and sounds. But even if you have something on a vinyl or a tape, when you're in an opera house or you're in a theater, there's certain dynamics to
Acoustics too.
acoustics to that place itself. And and then actually doing something live because I'm into like jazz, fusion jazz. And it's something that like when you perform something live, it has a life to it in that moment.
That is true. And that's one thing I love about performances, because you will see a performance or hear one, and it's only at that moment and it will never be recreated. Even if you had a tape of it, it
Yeah.
wouldn't be the same as being there.
That's the thing I try to get to people because a lot with this new tech, with all this AI and all these robotic and all this automation, I always tell somebody like they ask me like sometimes I play like every part. I'm kind of one man band. I play all the parts
That's
manually, track by track, and don't use a lot of shortcuts. I don't use AI. I don't use samples. If I play that bass line for 4 minutes, I'm playing it for 4 minutes.
that's very cool.
Playing that piano, I'm playing it for 4 minutes. And if people say, why don't you just put it on the grid? I say there's something about actually playing it.
Doing it.
When you hear it, it sounds like there's a real band there,
Right.
even though I'm one guy, because I'm actually doing it.
I think that's pretty interesting.
And I
I
think
think
some
we both agree there's just nothing like live performance, live music. It could be singing, it could be instrumental, but being there. Someone asked me, I was doing an interview, believe it or not, at Wolf Trap Opera Company. I was talking to the director. It's some years ago. And she said her son asked her, Mom, will there be a day when we don't even bother to sit in the theater? We could just, sit at home and watch on a big screen. And she said, hope that day never comes.
yeah.
But it's crazy. But I mean, think about it. With all of the streaming video, and you can watch a lot of the performing arts on streaming. I wonder sometimes if that's cutting a little bit into the market for some companies.
Yeah, I would think it is because there's some people, they just like the convenience and not have to go
That's
out
right.
and getting dressed and physically get there. But the other people, the experience of getting there and being there is the thing.
There's also the energy of the audience.
Yeah.
If you're watching it alone on television, it's completely different from being surrounded by like-minded people. I have been to some recitals. I can think of one some years ago with the great American bass Samuel Ramey, and it was at Carnegie Hall, where the audience was on fire.
Mhm.
Everything he did, they went crazy.
Your
I've
reaction.
actually seen that in Broadway houses lately too.
Well, that's what you want because, like, that's what I tell people if they're saying, "Well, I can just watch this live stream of this band or this performance." But, like, if you I mean, I was at the Woodstock that happened. There's a couple of Woodstocks, but when it first was reproduced, and I actually physically was there in the
That wasn't too long ago, right?
no, no, but it was in the one that was like the modern one with the Green Day and all that.
Right.
But it's just something about being in a crowd that big and
That's
seeing
another
this
thing.
big in the open air.
Now
Like
that scares me a little, though.
it's a hard thing to deal with.
I want to tell you that at the time of my novel, the year when Woodstock was 69 or
Mhm.
68. 69, I think. I think it was 69.
Yeah, yeah.
Was it? No,
Well,
60. Oh, I
I
can't remember. Anyway, I was at my mother and father's house in upstate New York, and Woodstock was happening, and I was working in a factory to earn money for college, and these people around me said, "Let's go to Woodstock." I went home and I said to my mother, "I'm going to Woodstock," and she goes, "No, you're not."
oh, yeah, going there. That's a
I
little too
missed Woodstock.
but is there something about that kind of experience where, some people are so plugged into, like, virtual reality and
Right.
the net and they're watching things on the net and so, being in an opera house or being in a live stadium, a live situation like a big festival. The experience was the people.
I'll have to try that
The
sometime.
the people was, that was a lot of, like,
No,
the
you're right.
whole thing is
You're
that
right.
lived experience to be there with that many people into the tune. It was something about that that's it's, like, totally different. So if you're in an opera house
Thousands of
with
people.
like-minded fans, they're just, like, rejoicing at hearing what
It's
maybe they didn't
wonderful.
expect or what they expected and it's better than what they expected.
I think it's a wonderful thing, and I wouldn't want to replace it, and I hope I never do, because it just isn't the same.
Mhm. So, it's like supporting the arts is a big thing because a lot of times people are like, well, they talk to an artist like, when are you gonna do like if you're a professional working artist, it's one thing. Like they say, okay, you're in that space. But a lot of times the arts are kind of poo-pooed and people are like, oh, why when are you gonna do a real job? Where are you gonna
In a way, that's what the theme of my book is, that the young singer who wants to go into Broadway, and her parents have heard her sing, and she didn't do very well because she's got vocal stage fright, and they basically can't support it. Like, this is not the field for you. And part of the story that I wanted to tell was, how do we find our vocation? How do we believe in our vocation? If you have a talent, should you earn your living at it? If you had two talents, which one should you choose? So those were some of the questions I wanted to explore.
so the book that goes through that, what's the title of that book?
The voice I just heard
Yeah, so that's the one that's like you're just
today.
coming out
Today.
today.
It is a revised version. I actually put it out in 2012. And then a couple of years ago, I read it. I had the nerve to reread my book. And I said, "You got that ending all wrong. That's terrible. You need to redo this book." Because it was pivotal. It just was the
So
world's
you
worst.
actually changed it from the initial
I
edition?
did. I rewrote the book, and then I added 3 new chapters, changing the ending. And now I can absolutely stand behind it and feel proud.
So was that something that you realized, or did you get feedback, or you just looked at your book and said, "Hey"?
Actually, I didn't get feedback on that. I got feedback on other things that I did change, just incidental things. But I actually had friends who really loved the first version and said, "You're changing it? No,
Mhm.
don't do that. Don't do that. I like it the way it is." And I really had to say, no, it doesn't resonate with me. And I'm the one that, in this case, matters. I'm going to redo it. And I'll probably find some new readers who never read it who won't know about that ending.
Yeah. Well, that makes it potentially for collectors like, oh, there's this version. And then
But
there's this.
by the way, the old ending was just what we were talking about. It was in the glitz and glamour of the opera. The two main characters eventually wound their way through their studies and their problems, and they wound up in the opera.
Oh, wow.
But I decided, no, I can't give them the opera, not this soon. So I cut that, and I made it much more down to earth and more about healing. They both had some problems.
Mm. So the whole journey of writing for you, is it something like it's like we talked about, it's like very cathartic, or like it's like you just have a vision and you've got to get it out?
It usually starts with an idea, and then it just kind of keeps going along. And in my experience, it just gets better and better and better the longer I work on a project. Now, even if I did make a mistake with the ending, I still like that book.
Hmm.
So I just start. There's something that's called a pantser, flying by the seat of your pants as a
Hmm.
plotter, and other people outline the whole book.
Yeah, yeah.
I am a pantser.
Fancy,
I
you
will
like to
just I
do
like
it,
to fly
fly it. Like, yeah,
by the seat of my pants.
it's kind of like a flow state, like stream of consciousness.
Yeah,
Like sometimes, like I can have an outline to a piece I'm working on, but then if I just go in and start playing, I'm like, whoa, it's like whatever I planned, I can throw out the window. I can have a course correction.
and that is the secret to allowing yourself to have it. Because I think some writers, well, there are certain genres that might depend more on that outline. For instance, I don't happen to write mystery or thrillers, but I would think you might want to plot that out.
Yeah, yeah. Or even have these big fantasy things that have these massive world building, and so there's like stuff
Yeah,
in that world you've got to build, and so you're kind of locked into like what you build, right? So if you build this dynamic, you kind of got to deal with it.
and it better work too, because readers want a good mystery. The voice I just heard just came to me, and the actual plot is the same except for those last three chapters. I wrote an earlier book called, well, do you want to talk about the voice I just heard, or do you want me to just keep free flowing a little
Or
bit?
you can flow into the other one if you want to
Okay,
talk
that's
about.
it. One more seat at the round table. Now, I wanted to explain that I did write it about the out of town travails of the Broadway musical Camelot. And that plot was given to me by the fact that I wrote about all the things that really happened and
Mhm.
all the people that were really in the show. And I researched it just to meticulous levels so that you really were there. You were there when Alan J. Lerner was rewriting the script over and over and over and giving it to the actors to learn new material every other night in Boston. Or you were there in Toronto when Moss Hart, the director of the show, had a heart attack, went into the hospital, and couldn't rejoin the production.
So that's kind of a nonfiction kind of.
No, it was fiction,
It's still
but
fiction.
I fictionalized it.
Oh, you fictionalized. So it's something
Yeah,
like based on
yeah.
reality,
I
but you
had I
fictionalized.
used the real people, but I also had I had fictional characters who were involved in the show who were commenting on the action so that you really could experience what it must have been like. And
Oh,
theater fans really loved this book. I was surprised how much they did.
that's interesting. So we have this kind of hybrid kind of thing.
Yeah, it is, but that I was not going by the seat of my pants. I was following what I really knew to be true about Camelot, and
Mhm.
I think I nailed it in the sense that I think I got it. By
That's
George, she's got it.
Yeah. Well, you got it.
California.
It's interesting when you have that kind of experience with a topic. Like if you really have like an encyclopedic knowledge of it, or you're really, and then you have some room to move with
I
like
did.
your expression.
I I fell in love with Camelot when I was quite young, and it became a driving force in my life. I am not old enough to have seen, well, I would have been a really small child to have seen the first version in 1960, but I did see it later. And I saw
Mhm.
Richard Burton in 1980 when he came to Broadway and did the revival. If
Mhm.
you could see behind me, what you would see is a giant Camelot display. I
Oh
mean,
wow.
I live, breathe, and eat Camelot.
Yeah. So you got it.
So I had to, now, didn't I have to write about that show?
Yeah. Well, if you have something that you're that close to, it's good to kind of dive into it with
You know
that.
what's really strange? I'm still collecting tidbits about Camelot. Anything that comes my way, I go, oh, I love that. I wish I could put that in the book. I'm not going to redo the book, but but I mean, I can never get enough Camelot lore.
Hmm. So, when you commissioned a song to accompany a which book?
The voice I just heard.
That's the one you did that. So,
Okay, so in the
gotcha.
voice I just heard, there is a famous waterfall in my hometown, Cohoes, New York, and the waterfall in 1804 was kind of the talk of the New World. Niagara was there, but people love the Cohoes Falls. Strangely, it's a lot smaller. But a famous poet from Ireland, Thomas Moore, came and he wrote a poem about the falls. So I thought, in my novel, one of the characters was quite enamored of the falls, and I thought it would be really interesting for the young singer to have a song about the falls. So I did have to commission it. It didn't exist, an art song from Laurie Laitman, who is an opera and art song composer. It was a real piece of luck that Laurie Laitman, whose work I just loved, lived half an hour from me. So I contacted her and we got together and we talked about it and she accepted the commission. And the song exists, which is really nice for the reader. And they can hear it on YouTube for free.
Or do you kind of have the readers know about it so they can click on it? Is it like, is it
No, it's not exactly like that. In the back of the book, though, I talk about it, and I do give the
link?
YouTube link.
Okay, so they can get
They
to it.
can't click on it.
It's not like they're getting like a CD attached to their book.
No, we thought about doing that originally. That was the idea, but then technology kind of ran
changed.
away. It
Well,
changed.
you don't have to do
Now
that.
it's on Spotify. Yeah, you could be reading the book and just
Well,
dial
yeah,
it.
I've talked to some artists that like to have that kind of multimedia experience where, I've actually some authors actually have a song that goes like with every chapter.
Oh yeah, I've heard about that.
And
Like a playlist. A
yeah,
playlist.
they actually put a playlist and they'll recommend to go with while you're reading, and to kind of tell you where
I thought about that.
where you should go. But you just got it as a
Got a
like
song.
theme to the for the whole book.
The idea is the song is germane to the book. This is a book about a struggling singer who can't control her voice, and her brother dies in Vietnam. And this is absolutely the worst thing that could ever happen. So she meets the man of her dreams like a few weeks later, and she thinks he will probably break the other half of my heart. The first half was the brother. The brother loved the falls, and she wanted to honor him with the song. And so she had it written for her by a composer who's very similar to Laurie Laitman. We called her Lily Leitner.
Mm-hmm.
And Laurie actually has a character in my book, but it really does work. It really is the best ending to the book to have the song be commissioned and then have her sing this song in honor of her deceased brother. And I think it works.
Does she ever get control of her voice?
She does.
She's
She really
an
does.
artist.
Absolutely. By going back to training, by working with her old voice teacher, by really trying to nail technique and methodically building her voice from the bottom up to make it smooth. And then she's off to conservatory. I don't think that's too much of a spoiler.
No, but it's interesting because like a lot of times it's like the people have a technical ability, but they don't handle like the DM side. Like it could be
That's
like
right.
they could have like they have ability to do it, but like you get an athlete that chokes. Like they can
That's
do it,
right.
but they've been practiced, but when they get on the field, they can't do it
Well,
because it's like they kind of can't step up to the moment or can't get rid of that thing that's telling them they can't do it.
I have met many would-be singers who've told me that they might have had a career if they could have auditioned. But when they went into auditions, I suppose this is true for Broadway people too, they choked.
They choke on
Their
it.
voice ran away with them and they can't control the breathing and they can't keep it going.
Anxiety gets to such a level they can't control it.
So then humorously, I also found out that some performers take Inderol, which is the heart drug, to kind of slow everything down.
So they don't have that.
Beta blocker. It's a beta blocker. So in my novel, the girl's father is a cardiologist, and she says, "Hey, Dad, do you ever prescribe Inderall for performers?" And he says, "Nora, if you need Inderall to get up on stage, you're in the wrong profession."
You know, you don't want to be doing that. It's
No,
tricky.
I think I don't think it is a good idea to be doing it off and on like that. But
No, it's
people
like
tell me they do. People tell me they do.
well, yeah, because if it's that important to them and they can't control it, like through just like discipline,
Breathing.
discipline or breathing or learning how to
Yeah,
handle the anxiety is like if you can't get around it in a way where you're actually developing a technique, then you need that outside little help, you know.
I believe that there probably are people who the anxiety overtakes them most at auditions.
Hmm.
But once they get the role, they can probably really work into it because then they've got it. And then they have the faith of the director and the help of the director. I would hope that's the case.
Yeah, it
And it's
happens with the musicians. Like on their first gig, they mess it up, and then they just keep on forcing it until they suddenly
till they can do it.
they just get to the zones. Like if as a musician, like if you can get to that zone and you don't think about the crowd, and then you just like you can just be in the song, you can just be in the performance, and then you're like you don't even like you're aware of it,
Mhm.
but you're so into it that like it's not nothing's really gonna knock you off that mission.
Well, in say Broadway and opera, you're doing a role. You're a recital's different where you're standing on stage and just singing for the crowd and you can see the crowd in a recital. But at the opera, you should really be focusing on your role and how you're interacting with the other
Yeah, you should just
singers.
be into
Yeah,
into the story.
into the show.
Yeah, you're into the story, and it's like if you're paying attention to the crowd, you're gonna lose sight of where you are in the story.
I'd be willing to bet you, seriously, although I haven't taken a poll, that many people would admit to the audition nerves, but say once they got the job, they calmed down and it went really well.
Yeah, it's just like the 10,000 hours once you start doing it, once
That's
you
right.
get into that, once you get over the stage fright. Because there's like many musicians, like they agonize all day. They're not happy until they get on stage, and then
I
when they're on
understand that.
stage, they're totally great. But they had to get off stage, and it's all back. It's like they just really want to be on the stage. Everything coming up to it is a pain.
I don't know if this is true, but they used to say that the great tenor Pavarotti used to vomit backstage.
That
They
can
had
happen.
pails around the stage. I don't know if it's true. It can't be good for your vocal cords to
Now,
do
that
that.
can't be good at all.
No,
But
no.
I've heard stories of like musicians being in similar situations where they just aren't really having a good day, and it's like it's only in that zone that they feel okay, and that's not the best place to be because you might only be there 2 hours out of the day, you know.
That's hard. I mean, well, part of being a professional in music or in theater or opera is really learning to embrace the profession, not just the one performance or whatever you're doing, but it's a lifestyle, as we know.
Yeah, you have to like get good with like being on the road, being in that
That must be
rigor.
tough.
Yeah, that's hard. I mean, if you're just in a place where you get to be in that house and you're there for a month, two
Different.
months, 3 months, but if you have to move from city to city,
I can't understand it. Like these people who do these tours in let's just say Wicked or Phantom of the Opera, and they're 2 nights here and 2 nights there.
it must be hard to
Can you
get.
imagine? And then
Yeah,
having to sleep in a bed that may not be comfortable and get up and do that show and then get on the bus again?
yeah. How do you how
That's
do
a
you
hard
stay in? How can you keep that
I don't
character
know.
going without
They're
losing it?
hardy. They're hardy.
Yeah, they're into
They're
it.
young. They're young.
Well, if you're just so dedicated that in order to perform, that's the cost that you have to travel, or you have to have that rigor to like do 3 shows a day. Like so, you got to be on. Like if you're on a show that's doing multiple shows in a day,
You get used to it.
you still got to be like even if you're not feeling good, even if you're mentally not there, it's like they still got to carry it off, and so that's a cost to the person.
I also think there's a certain it's like a faucet. You're feeling horrible. You go on stage, you turn the faucet a different way, you do your thing, you come off stage, and the faucet goes back to how you were feeling
Yeah, you
because you
kind of
were able to focus and concentrate so much.
yeah, that level of focus and ability to kind of be that other, like that
I truly admire these people. I admire anybody who performs for a living. But I read this staggering statistic as I was getting ready to do this interview, and that was that it was a few years ago, there were only 80, say, opera singers working who were working constantly, 80 in the country and in the world. But there
Wow.
were 8,000 opera singers who were freelance, who were looking for work. And I thought, wow, that's a really tough way to get a job.
Yeah, that's not a lot of
That's
openings.
not a lot of openings.
Is it just because the taste in the industry has changed where you don't have as much opportunity?
I think so. I think that what happened is over the years, a lot of the American opera houses, anyway, have or companies rather have closed. There,
Mhm.
we had a downturn in the economy a few years ago. It really affected one of our major opera companies, which was New York City Opera, which was always the alternative to the Metropolitan Opera, and they are no longer in business.
Oh,
So there
wow.
was that. Young artist programs take a lot of singers and train them, and then put them into the world, but there may not be the roles ready for them. So
Yeah.
it's a different business.
So they end up having to go into other areas if they can't.
Well, there's teaching and there's I don't know what else you do if you're not able to sing. Some of them go into Broadway.
Yeah, to go to Broadway, do you actually go into acting? Maybe transform to actors or
Possibly.
go to television or go to other things.
But I
Yeah.
mean, I think it's hard for actors too to
Yeah.
get jobs.
Yeah, well, it's hard across the board because like everything today is so like a lot of the world of the the big Hollywood studios. I was talking to somebody where they had this whole system where it was like is a different world in the 50s and the 40s
Oh, definitely.
versus like the way it is now. And there's this like I don't know, it is like they were that was like the height of the Hollywood scene.
Maybe like every man for himself now.
Yeah,
Or
now
then
it's like
the system where they would take 50 actors at MGM and you'd be under contract. It's not like that anymore.
yeah, you don't have the protection. Like even like all musicians, we used to have these contracts. You get an advance, you get A&R, you get people teach you etiquette. They teach you like how to be on the road. There was a whole system that would go and like prep you and prepare you and have people like artists in the wings. So they would development, artist development.
It's kind of
Actually,
gone.
it totally like oh now it's like there's no support.
That's not
So
good.
and it's just like do you actually appreciate the arts or you just appreciate what you can monetary value of what you can sell in the arts versus do you believe in opera? Do you believe in orchestra? Do you believe in these forms?
I mean, the people doing it.
Yeah, because if you really believe in it, you give people. But if you're not making money, if it's not, if you can't, if somebody doesn't see the value in something, then they don't support it, right? So then that becomes like the issue is like, okay, well, I still believe in this form, but can I actually make it in the form?
I'm just not sure that opera is quite as popular as it used to be. And I think, like as great a house as the Metropolitan Opera has suffered some financial issues. They were trying to do new repertoire to get younger people involved, and I hope they're successful with that. But I think in a lot of cities, I live in Baltimore, our opera house closed some years ago, and there is no opera.
It's
There is
almost like the taste and the young people maybe were kind of given an etiquette. You expect like a certain like that opera was something that you was something that if you were successful in a career, you take your wife to the opera and
right.
someplace to go, right? And now
Not if
there's
it's
somebody,
not there.
now it's not somebody that's to go anymore. Now
It's
it's like the taste have changed so much that
no.
that's not the gold standard to go out on a Friday, Saturday night.
Well,
That's you know,
I will say this. I did go to the Opera House recently in Baltimore. And you know what I went to see? Nikki Glazer, the comedian.
yeah, so
And
they use
so
that for
that's
other purpose.
that's
Other,
who was at the Opera House.
yeah, so you have other types of things
Right.
going on, other media going on in these houses,
I mean,
where
so it's great that some of the theaters still exist, mind you. I'm glad they haven't torn them down, but some places they have.
But it's about the whole human nature of the opera. It's like when you go to see a play. There's a nature of these spaces for this human event and the creativity of that live event. And now people maybe just don't aren't I don't know, it's just not perking their interest. They're not finding it of value.
Well, I think they're interested, but remember this, it's now very expensive to go to the arts. Very expensive. And the fewer people who patronize the arts, the more the prices go up. So, I mean, have you looked at Broadway ticket prices lately? I mean, they're outrageous.
Yeah, well, all events are just crazy. Like even to go into like a Coachella or something, people are paying
Right.
thousands of dollars, just to see bands. Like I grew up in the '70s. You could see like a band for like $15, $10, $5.
Not anymore.
Then you guys pay $200 to see a band. Like so, it's like really.
I wish for Broadway that it would go the other direction. I wish that they would start lowering ticket prices so that younger people can afford to go and not just on the half price booth, so that they could plan to go. Because I'm afraid in time, nobody will go to, as we were starting our conversation, to live theater or opera because they can't afford it.
Well, if you price something out and you make it just so it's like only for the elites, it's only for the upper crust.
Right.
Then nobody's going to feel that it speaks to them. Like
or if it's just a tourist thing. If you play a lot of long-running musicals, I have no problem with that. But if the tourists are flooding in to see that, but the people who live in town aren't going, I don't think that's actually true in New York. I think New York does have a lot of native-born theater fans who go.
Yeah, they just want to go.
And there are many smaller theaters in New York too. And I don't know how they stay afloat, but God bless them.
Well, I think there are people that still believe in the form. Like, people who believe in jazz, like in New Orleans,
right,
live jazz bands because they believe it, and they continue to go see it.
So important. It's an enrichment. It's such an enrichment to our lives.
Yeah, I think it's important to have that live performance, like we were saying, listening versus to a recording versus actually going to a live event.
Different.
It's that dynamic to actually, if you go see Death of a Salesman, like you go see the play. And you actually you went like every night for a couple of nights. You get to see the dynamics of what these actors do on stage. I love plays like that. I mean,
I saw it not too long ago, actually, in Baltimore, and I thought, oh, for classic plays, you think, I know this. Do I really need to see it again? And the answer is yes, you do.
Because the actors, like the director and the actors, they have a different take on it.
Right. It's a different group.
You see like a new play, you see a play that might be known, but like if it's director or this troupe has a different way of doing it, then it's still worthwhile, so you go to see it because it's like, oh, this is their take on it.
I will say that although we lost our opera company, Baltimore is a very active and very vibrant theater town. And we have excellent theaters, resident companies, and it's wonderful.
Mm-hmm. So, like, in terms of publishing, I'm going to kind of flip to the hybrid publishing and why you chose to go that way, and what advantages did you find there?
There are a lot of advantages, but I'll tell you why. When I was trying to get an agent for the Camelot book, I approached 85 agents, and they were not unimpressed. The last one said, she was high-placed agent. She said, I think you're a wonderful writer, but, there's always the but. I think they didn't think there would be enough of an audience for a book about Camelot. So finally I thought, well, if I'm a wonderful writer, don't I owe it to myself to get that book out there? So what are my options? Well, I had self-published The Voice I Just Heard with Create Space, which was Amazon the first time. And I thought, I'm going to look around. So another writer who I really respect was using Atmosphere Press. And she said, you're going to really love them. Well, she was right. That is an amazing author-friendly company, not too expensive. They do everything, but they treat the product as any professional publisher would. It's not a vanity press. You go through rigorous editing, copy editing, proofreading, everything that you need to make a quality product.
What they do, the whole why you
The whole
want to
thing.
go to the bigger presses because you want that rigor.
And it is rigorous. And I loved my editor in particular. Her name was Colleen Alice. So I was so happy with the product. When it came time for me to reissue The Voice I Just Heard, I knew that it had already been self-published, and I thought I won't even bother trying agents. They're not going to give me the time of day because it's in print, still in print. So I just went back to Atmosphere, and I'm so pleased with everything they do.
That's a really cool thing to point out because, like, that's why people like in the music industry, you do it yourself or you go with a small independent label because you still want the benefit of having a recording engineer, the benefit of like the mastering, the benefit of a producer, because those are the people that help you, craft your work, and they help you make your better version of what you want to do. You
Here's
know,
something I've discovered, and it's a wonderful discovery. If you put your heart and soul into a piece of art, a book, you find some readers. Those readers who are responding to your work do not care if it was published by Amazon or Atmosphere or Random House. They're in it because they want a very good story.
you want the
And if
story.
you give them that story, you can self-publish, you can hybrid publish, and I'm very proud of it because I really tried very hard with the Camelot book, and it was soul numbing after a while to
Mhm.
be told over and over, "Oh, you're a good writer, but no thanks." I mean, really.
So with the beta, do you use a lot of beta readers, or do your publishing house
I
help you?
do. I do. I have several people I trust implicitly. And if they say it's good, it is good. If they say I
Mhm.
should make changes, I make changes. And as I said, this is interesting. I took some of the negative feedback that I got the first time around. It wasn't that much, but there was some. And I thought, I am going to listen to this feedback. And when I rewrite that book, I'm going to change things. And I did.
Mhm.
One of the pieces of feedback was that my main character was perhaps too self involved. I took another look and I thought, maybe she was. So now she isn't. It's that simple.
So you did that one, you did like a direct 180 on it then.
Well, no, I modified things. That was that opera ending again. The
Mhm.
the book just kind of ended. This time, and remember, it's a book about grief. She loses her brother in Vietnam, and it was a terrible thing. And at the end of the summer, in the old version, the book just kind of ended. Now the book doesn't end. We continue on with the family to find out how they kept going to resolve their grief. Not that you can ever fully resolve it, but handle their grief, learn to accept their grief. So she was there for her parents, and that meant a lot to me. Not
Have
just
you
running off to study, not just leaving her parents high and dry. She was there.
do you like to create books that are like self-contained or not part of like a trilogy?
I don't seem to be driven to write something that would be a series. Usually, they're great. I mean, who doesn't like to see? You read a good book and then there's another one right away. But I don't see myself going that way.
Do you like to just have a self-contained story? So if
I
you're gonna
do.
write
I
a book,
do.
you want it to be like, it's gonna be this whole world in this book. It
In
doesn't
that
get
book. But I think about it. I mean, it is self-contained, but they never leave me. I mean, it's
mhm,
really kind of weird that I think about the characters and
think
what they
about
do after the book.
it after, but you just never think it's like, well, I don't know if you could. They could sometimes people want have that worldview that's just bigger than the book, and so it ends up being a series. And other people say,
I tried to write a sequel to
"You
this
tried."
in after 2012. I did. I had it's a funny story. It's not funny. I broke my leg.
Oh,
And as I broke my leg and I was on my way in the ambulance, I thought, well, thank God it's my leg, not my typing fingers, because
keep
what
on
am I going
working.
to do?
Keep on
So
working.
I spent that summer sitting at my dining room table, unable to walk in a wheelchair. Not funny, but looking back at writing a sequel to The Voice I Just Heard, but it didn't work. It just
Mhm.
didn't work. So as I say, I'm a good one for if it doesn't work, put it
Don't
away.
force it. Yeah, we kind of gotta know like I know what I don't know, and I know what I can't do, and I know
Right.
where my sweet spot is, right? So like you like sometimes like you try to push it in the art. Sometimes like you have to push a little bit to get to the next thing,
Yeah.
but eventually you get this thing where like this is my style. This is the way I go. My groove. I'm in this groove, and this is the way things are gonna go.
It's important to recognize what your groove is.
Yeah, because sometimes people don't know, and they're kind of experimenting until they hit the thing that works.
My groove is to write backstage novels about the performing arts. So the first voice I just heard is about they were at a theater all summer, but it's about vocal arts. Camelot was the musical, and now I am working on a novel yet again. I've been at it for years, but I'm going to make it work about Annie Oakley in
Annie Oakley. Oh,
Buffalo Bill.
oh, so do you have it? That was something that you just had an interest in. You've had it in the back pocket.
Oh, I researched it for years and then I wrote the book, and it just didn't quite gel for a number of reasons. I mean, it's in manuscript, it's never been published. And I
Mm.
think I finally know how to fix it.
Oh, that's the thing you're saying. Like sometimes, like you have a piece, you walk away from it because it's just not coming together,
And
and
go
then
back.
suddenly there's like an aha moment. It's like, oh, I know how to make it work now.
One of the reasons why is that new information has come out in the meantime about Annie Oakley that makes her much more interesting, at least to me.
Mm.
So that is something I can work with. Her biographer explained it as she just didn't have access to all the internet sources that she got in later years. So she actually republished her book about Annie, Cheryl Casper, and she put in this whole new, well, it's an afterword, but it's really a prequel to tell you
Oh,
what happened to Annie in her early years.
oh, so that gives you some information that makes it like
Good information.
the depth of the character get brought out more, and so it makes it more interesting
So
as a
that book I mentioned that didn't work? I wrote
that's
40 pages. Well,
yeah.
it wasn't about Annie, but it
Oh,
was about Buffalo Bill.
Buffalo
And it
Bill.
was like a prequel to the Annie Oakley book. Because remember, Annie Oakley joined Buffalo Bill's Wild West. It's a
Mm.
show. And
Yeah,
she was with him for years. But it didn't work. I know how many times I've said that phrase in
yeah,
this
yeah.
interview.
Well, you kinda know when it doesn't. Sometimes you got a piece that just that you think it's working and you're trying to get it, and like sometimes like we push on it, and then it's like, oh no, this ain't hitting. This ain't.
I think it's better to just cut your losses. Say, I worked on it, I practiced, this didn't work, the sequel to The Voice I Just Heard didn't work. I've also written recently yet another book. I think it works fine, but I've sent it out to a number of agents and I'm not getting anywhere with it. And I thought, well, I don't want to self-publish it. I don't want to hybrid publish it. Maybe it was an exercise. Again,
Hmm.
I just have to write.
Yeah, well, that's what you do. I mean, a lot of times, like I've got a bunch of things like in the can. I've been working on like an album because like I've done an album in a year since like 2016, more than sometimes a couple in a year. But for 2025, I haven't released anything. But I've got like 5 records in the can, and I keep on
Five,
playing. Yeah, I have
5
5 full.
full records?
Yes,
It'd be like a lot of songs.
I have a lot of songs,
All right, that must be like a lot.
it's a lot.
Well,
And I keep on
congratulations.
I just keep on playing around with the sequence, and some songs are going between projects and say, "Well, it really works here," and I'm moving them around, and they're like, and
That's
then
cool.
yeah, because sometimes you're just trying to get a feel. Like I like to live in the world of albums for a musician is like telling a story.
Mhm.
So when you have an album, you're trying to tell that story in a way that's coherent.
Uh-huh.
It
And
has
so
like
you would put certain songs together to
yeah,
tell a story.
yeah, you're trying to get it to work, and then being a musician, sometimes you work on something and it really doesn't work for this project. It works for another one.
Right.
And I had things like they go on the cross and until I figure out like which one do they belong in.
That's exciting.
But I
Well, you
think
sound like you work the way I do. It's
yeah,
just,
you never know.
keep trying. Keep trying.
You just put it down and you say, well, it doesn't work, or this works, or this like you'd figure it out. But we have to work, like you said. You have to put it out. You have to work. You're actually creating
I
like
had
all
to.
the time, right?
I just think I just think that writing or music, playing music, creating music, it creates endorphins, which are those wonderful things that make us feel wonderful about our lives. And without the artwork, artwork that we're doing, that's an absence of endorphins. Then you're sort of sitting around saying, now what?
Yeah, and this whole
Right?
thing about the like what we've been talking about with like with if you deal with like the space of the performing arts and hoping that this generation doesn't feel it's a lost art because they're so on streaming, they're so into gaming,
I
they're so
hope they
into
don't.
to the virtual. And are they going to start saying, well, I'd rather see an AI troupe,
Oh
and
dear.
I'd rather see like Shakespeare done by AI
Oh
robot
no.
actors,
Robots?
or an opera sung by like
Oh,
like an android
horrible.
or a robot. And I'm
Horrible.
like, really? That's
No.
what you want? Because maybe that's the this whole tech thing today. Is that what they'll want? Is that what they'll
Maybe
really?
maybe they won't. Maybe it'll swing the other way.
I hope that maybe somebody does it, and then people say, "Yeah, I see why humans do that."
Yeah. I do not think that human singers, actors, musicians can be replaced by androids. I'm sorry. I don't believe it.
Yeah, I don't think robots and but
You know
they're
what? A good example of that. Can AI replace authors? And the answer is no.
I don't think so. Because when
You
I saw
can't.
somebody sent me this thing, that was in my day job, I'm a software guy, and
Okay.
this guy sent me this AI book
You could tell, couldn't
written
you?
by AI, and I
How'd you like
actually
it?
and I'm looking at it, and I'm like, like okay, this thing it didn't have any like I came out of Bowdoin, I came out of a school that had like Socratic method,
Hmm.
and really checking your resources and checking your end notes and actually making an argument and proving your argument, and it had all these errors. And it didn't have good and the information was going nowhere. I mean, you go and trying to track stuff, and it just wasn't well put together. And I'm like, so
We don't want that.
this is what people are doing because like at the first glance, it created this thing, and it had 150 pages. So it created 150 pages of content, but it was like junk food cart content.
Oh dear.
It
Was
was
it
like
supposed to be a novel?
it was supposed to be this thing. It was more of a research paper,
Oh, I see.
but it wasn't really making an argument,
Oh dear.
and it really wasn't backing it up. And I'm like, this is what is supposed to replace like actual humans.
You know what's really funny? If you do a boosted post on Facebook, they will give you two AI versions of what you wrote. Seriously. And I
Mhm.
always read them because I'm curious. And they have a certain snappy quality, but they don't sound like me. I wouldn't put them out there under my name because that's not me.
Yeah, well, it loses your voice.
Your voice and your personality.
It loses like if you can go and ask AI to write a song,
Oh
and
no,
it
dear.
will go, and if you're very descriptive of what you want,
Uh-huh.
it will grab all these parts and then kind of like as a collage put them together.
How does that sound?
It really is not convincing, and it has no heart and it has no soul. And like
Heart and
everybody,
soul.
if every time I try to show it to a musician, they immediately pick up. It's like this has no heart. Is this AI? They immediately pick it up. The human being can sniff it out like a dog. You
Yeah.
know, it's like we just know it. It's like well that dog don't hunt. That's it.
I've seen a lot of just little brief clips on Facebook. They're animal clips, but what the animals are doing is so outrageous that I know it's AI. And I
It's
think, who
fake,
puts this
yeah.
stuff
They're
out?
making these moves. I saw this dog jumping off like a diving bell,
Yeah,
doing like Olympic like movements. It's like I know you generated that.
I saw a dog jumping on the back of an alligator, and I went, right, please.
Doing all these
How
Olympic.
dumb do you think we are?
I mean, it's interesting that you went and took time to do that. It's a good
I,
waste of
you need
resources.
somebody making that? Well, somebody's making this stuff. It's content, but anyway, I definitely think people will continue to go to the arts. I think if they try not to, and they try Android operas or anything, they'll soon tire of it. I guarantee that.
I just think it's important for people to understand the human voice and in that just expression and the things that actors do. Like actors use not just their voice, they use their body, they use their
Everything.
eyes, they use everything, they use their movements. Everything means something when you're an actor or musician. How you present and how you, it's just a human, capability over time. Is your craft,
And
and that craft is important. I think people need to respect the craft.
also, actors tell us something about being human. We're human. They're enacting a human story, and we learn from actors. We learn from plays. As you said, Death of a Salesman, that's a great classic, but we do. It's so important, but I agree with you.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it's the nonverbal things like that actors do, or the silence between the notes,
Right.
and the knowing that you don't have to fill the space,
So important.
and the timing of how you fill the space, and that is very human. And every actor has a different way of doing it, and it is a signature. Every opera singer has a way they do the tone.
That's right.
They're that characteristic of their voice, like the actual, like that tonal quality that's unique to their
The
voice. And
color, the timbre.
yeah, and that's so important to the story.
If you hear a distinctive voice, and you recognize the timbre, you've heard it, there's nothing like it. There are some more generic voices, you might hear it and not even know who they are. But once you hear a voice that you love and you recognize the color, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, the color, the tone is like the color.
Oh,
Like we play with like sound. Like I'm into synth sounds, and there's like pink noise, brown noise, blue noise. There's all these different levels of noise within synthesis, and
oh,
we
that's
actually can tag the noises.
I love it.
And it's like you create these atmospheric pieces. Then some of these noises are used to make like water and wind and other things, and we kind of put the sound waves together to create these tones that they call it sound painting.
That's fascinating.
And there's a way to actually create these tones in a very atmospheric, evocative way. And it's all human behind it. It's not a robot doing it. It's like we're
Right.
making
You're
choices,
making it.
like a painter makes a choice,
That's
and
lovely.
and that's why I think people, singers, are doing the color of their voice.
Absolutely. And
That's it.
they learn how to use their voice to make different colors. They learn the difference between vibrato and non-vibrato, white sound, they call it. Like a beautiful soprano who can sing opera, who might have a little vibrato, might go into the theater and not have vibrato, might try to create a different sound for the medium.
And that gets lost if people don't start, they lose the opera. If you lose,
That's right.
everybody will they'll forget, what does that sound like in the hall?
I don't think we're there yet, but it could happen. But I don't
Yeah.
think we're there yet. And I think we have to encourage parents to take their children to theater and even opera. There are children's operas.
Yeah.
My friend Laurie Laitman, who wrote my song, she's written several children's operas, and they're great successes. We need to expose children to opera, theater, and musicals. And
So they
music.
get inspired to maybe even want to be in it, to
That's
want
right.
to do it, to want to get
Because
it.
the future generation.
Yeah, it's super important because we don't all have to be accountants and
No,
actuaries and doctors and lawyers and engineers. Sometimes we want to be artists.
I would hope so.
So thank you for being on the show today. We do have
Oh,
your website,
thank
Susan.
you. This was such a pleasure to exchange ideas. I really enjoyed it.
You got your website and your Instagram below,
Thank you.
and that will be fully clickable. We've been live on LinkedIn, YouTube, and the Kick channel. We will be on multiple podcast channels like Spotify, video podcast, Apple Podcast, iHeartRadio, Amazon, Newsly by tomorrow. We're
That's
going to
great.
send a landing page out to everybody so they can pick whatever platform they want for the replay. And I want to thank you for being on the show today.
I want to thank you so much, sincerely. Thank you. This was so much fun.
Thank you.